Hello everyone. Today let's just go over the patch notes for the 7.25 update. Right now we have uh, we're just going to be going over the update, and we also have the stats from the last tournament that was held, so we'll be able to look at these key heroes and see how they are changed, and if they are changed at all. And so now let's just go over them. So first thing is the all pick. The picking has been reworked, so now it's 5 rounds of just everyone picks at the same time, kind of like in Rainbow Six. And so that's going to have interesting effects on in terms of now you can have two kind of cheese picks at the end of the drafting. Not sure how that's going to play out, but we'll see what happens. The kill gold formula has been reworked, so this is the old one, and this is the new one, so it's a lot simpler in terms of what happens. It also talks about the rubber band mechanic was removed, so it's going to be less. There's going to be less comebacks happening. The power runes initially spawning at 4 minutes is also really big. Is going to not determine the impact of the power of the lane as much. And so yeah, so like it was really annoying when, for instance, at 2 minutes in, the enemy gets a double damage rune, and then now your lane's just messed up. The power runes no longer spawning on both sides of the map at 40 minutes is also really big, because some games are just determined by a double damage rune popping up at 40 minutes in, and then whoever gets double damage rune kind of wins the fight, or just goes take Roshan and you can't contest that. The captain's mode banning changed from 3-2-1 to 4-1-1. We'll be seeing that in tournaments and how that plays out. So now it's not going to be like you can pick a kind of cheesy hero in the first phase and then ban 2 counters. You'll only have 1 counter to ban. I'm really excited to see how that plays out in terms of the drafting component. The random draft hero pool, I didn't play much random draft. No idea how that works. Well, I know how it works, I just don't know how this is going to play out. Radiant Ancient Creeps are now easier to stack, buff to Radiant. Fountain attack damage increase is pretty big, because then there's going to be less diving the fountain. Maybe a buff to Pudge, who's going to hook you out of the fountain, who knows. The neutral creep Frost Armor, Dooms and Chens would usually go for the Frost Armor creep. So that's gonna, that nerf, looks like a nerf? Yeah, it's a nerf. So that's gonna change how they play. And Illusion Rune now has the Manta Dodge and the Manta Dispel, so that's a buff to the Illusion Rune, which is arguably one of the worst runes to get. They did some item changes. I did have a chance to look at these neutral items, and I was able to make a little list of what was buffed, what was nerfed. Overall, the only thing that was nerfed was the Faded Brooch, which makes sense because it did give almost the equivalent of a full energy booster in one item. And that was a weird sound effect that just played. And so, yeah. All the others were buffed. Some of them are quite surprising. So the Grove Bow attack speed increase, it now feels better to get a Grove Bow on an all melee team, but there weren't that many all melee teams. So now you get the attack speed. It's definitely better for ranged carries as well. The gold from Philosopher's Stone is also kind of surprising, because every support already wanted the Philosopher's Stone, and they did remove the GPM talents, so I guess they do want this one aspect of the GPM talents. Other than that, everything was buffed. Enchanted Quiver was buffed, which is good because no one wanted to use it. Repair Kit was buffed because no one wanted to use it outside of repairing the towers. So they really want you to just hold on to the Repair Kit. The Havoc Hammer buff, you didn't really... So these are the tier 4 items, so they were all buffed. Flicker is less unreliable now, it's more reliable, which, I mean, it's still going to be a meme, I think. I don't think people are going to really want Flicker all that often. And so, yeah. The tier 5 item changes, so Ballista, Seer Stone, Woodland, Striders. So that's all just kind of big. So now the health regen was reduced in 7.24. Now they're buffing it back up from, so it went from 70 to 60 overall. The down to 50 was too big of a nerf for it, I guess. Okay, Town Portal Scroll, the cost increased from 50 to 90. This is going to be big change in the early game. In the late game, it's not going to be as big, but in the early game for sure, you're not going to want to die as much. You're going to want to save those 3 Town Portal Scrolls. It's going to be kind of funny because all the net worths are going to be inflated even more now, because you essentially have, instead of 150 bonus gold, you get pretty much 270 bonus gold. The Boots of Travel was changed, so it doesn't have an active anymore. It does upgrade the Town Portal Scrolls. It was too hard to rat, or arguably it was too easy to rat, and so I can't tell if this is a nerf or a buff to ratting. It's definitely a nerf to... It's a buff to ratting in the sense for heroes like Nature's Prophet or Tinker, who already have the teleports built into their kits, but it's kind of a nerf for everyone else. 40-second Town Portal Scroll is alright. I mean, it's good. Instead of 80 seconds. Okay, Javelin change. So Javelin, this one I saw. I did actually see the first few item changes. Once you get to Sage's Mask, I don't know. Ooh, one regenerate. Okay. So this is going to be interesting because when you're building Maelstrom, what you wanted to do before is you wanted to go Javelin first, then Mithril Hammer, because first off it was cheaper, and second off it would give you overall more damage. It was a 25% chance to deal 100, which meant on average plus 25 damage. This is plus 24 damage, so generally Javelin was better. But now it's a bit different. You're going to want to actually look at the enemy lineup to see what you need more first, the magical or the physical damage. The Mjolnir attack speed reduced by 10. That's a nerf to most pub builds of Juggernaut, who usually relies on Mjolnir. Other than that, Arc Warden nerf. Trying to think who else. I guess some Lifestealers would go for the full Mjolnir. Orb of Venom is... So there's a nerf to Mjolnir, obviously. Orb of Venom, this is a nerf. The damage per second reduced to 2 is a huge thing. The melee slow increase is big, but now you're really just getting it for the slow. I don't know if people are going to want to get this. They're definitely not going to want to get it as often. There was the Dota commentator Cap. He was talking about how he hated having to build this on most offlaners. So as an offlane player, this is going to be nice that I don't feel like I have to get this. Ring of Regen cost reduced, which is really big. This is a good item in terms of what it builds into. It builds into it's a soul ring. Yeah, so that got buffed. Total Defiance buff. Buff to everything. Oh, Force Staff is now 2225. So that's nice. Headdress was the item all supports were getting. You'd see maybe 3 headdresses for each team in a game. Now you don't need the Iron Branch, it's 50 gold cheaper, but it doesn't give the plus 3 stats, which that was kind of 2 stats out of nowhere for the recipe, which was 150. And the HP regen is increased, so I don't know if people still don't want to get it. I guess it was stat efficient, but now it's still really good, and as a support, you're still going to want to buy it just to help your carry regen, and now it's even better in that regard. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Sage's Mask regeneration increased to 1. That's good. Having a naked Sage's Mask felt kind of bad. The cost reduced, which is nice, just like Ring of Regen. Ring of Bassi, which was headdress but for mana instead. Same kind of changes. It is going to feel better. Yeah, the change even goes to Vladimir's Offering, who gets... So now if you upgrade from Ring of Bassi to Vladimir's Offering, you get 0.1 bonus mana a second, which that's going to be kind of a funny way of looking at things. Buckler, another cheap ore item changed. No longer plus 3 stats. Recipe cost reduced. And armor increase, so exactly the same as the others. Wait, where's there's 3 points here, 4 points here. Oh, the recipe cost was reduced. Okay, was it more? 150. Oh, I didn't even know they had different recipe costs. Dang. So, Buckler has a huge buff now, which was weird. I was building it on most heroes, so I guess they really just want people buying these aura items for their aura effects, not just for the stats. The +3 stats was obviously really good, but now you're going to want these in more specialized situations. Vladimir's offering the all stats reduced. Does it have any stat? No, it doesn't have any stat components. This is just free +5 attributes, which is nice from building that up. The Veil of Discord mana regen is also kind of cool because, well, it's only 0.1 more mana a second. I guess it's still good because you kind of want this when you want to be giving your team extra mana, but at the same time, it's only 0.1 more mana. Interestingly, now the Veil of Discord recipe gives an additional 5 attributes, so that's nice. Oh, Bloodthorn now requires Hyperstone. Okay, that's pretty cool. Chrysalis was kind of busted, so now I guess it only builds on Daedalus. Attack damage has been reduced by 40, attack speed increase, and no longer has a passive critical strike chance. That's a complete rework of the item. I guess this makes it better for Storm Spirit, who loves. I mean, he'd build the Orchid, but that was just a really good attack speed item for int heroes. So if you're if you have a lot of int, then it kind of then you're getting more speed on the damage that you already have, which is nice. So that's weird. Oh, but okay, so that's interesting. Battle Fury is now changed. So instead of requiring Demon Edge, now requires Broadsword. What does Demon Edge even build into now? Was it just okay? Oh, no, it was already like that. Alright, where's Battle Fury? So now you need the Mithril Hammer plus Broadsword. That's 400 gold more expensive, which I guess makes sense because they did buff it recently and they made it kind of strong. But okay, Broadsword was buffed by being cheaper. Blade Mail's now 200 gold cheaper. This is another reason to build Blade Mail. And so is Helm of the Dominator. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Damage reduced by a bit, but 2 damage isn't that big. I mean, I'd rather buy new broadsword than old broadsword for sure. 200 gold, 2 damage. Chrysalis, recipe cost increased. That makes sense. Damage reduced from 45 to 34. Oh god. And critical strike chance increased. So base damage, it was more than Demon Edge was for a cheaper price, and now it is more on par with Demon Edge in terms of the price. The damage is less, but you'll critical hit more. So it's less of a good damage item just by itself. Now you're going to want to stack with the other damage items. Vanguard no longer has a 200 gold recipe, and Crimson Guard, because of that, cost reduced by 200. It was weird because whenever there was a bunch of auto attackers, I didn't see a lot of people building Crimson Guard. They usually just go for a Heaven's Halberd and say, yeah, that's good enough. But okay, Abyssal Blade recipe cost increased. Abyssal Blade was a big power spike for a lot of people, and so God, that's okay. I guess its recipe cost increased by 200. So now it's the same price. It's just Vanguard was buffed, and the buff didn't translate to Abyssal Blade, which is good. I think Abyssal Blade was really strong. Eagle Song cost reduced by 3,000. This is a kind of a weird point to make, but this is kind of cool that Eagle Song is now the same as a Reaver. I mean, it's not that big of a nerf, Bob Bobson. You says, damn massive nerf to Chrysalis. It's kind of a nerf, but it's kind of a buff in some ways. Well, it is a massive nerf. Let's be real here. People aren't just going to be building like 3 Crystallis, which I think I saw a Reddit thread about that earlier. But yeah, going back to Eagle Song, Eagle Song and Reaver are now the same price for the same amount of attributes for their respective attribute. Now we just need Mystic Staff price increase, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Butterfly, agility reduced. Okay, so this is... So Butterfly loses 5 agility, but it also is 200 gold cheaper. And Ethereal Blade, the primary attribute damage reduced. Okay, so this is a nerf to Meepo. This one is a nerf to Meepo. This is a nerf to late game carries, but nah, it's just a... That seems like a nerf, because 5 agility is... I don't know, for 200 gold, I'm not sure how I even feel about this, but... Like, 5 agility, that's 450. That's not that big of a deal. I'm not sure how Butterfly is going to be changed. People are going to be building it more or less, but Ethereal Blade is definitely a nerf. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. No, it's still a nerf to Meepa. So Ethereal Blade's better on heroes that don't build a lot of their primary attribute, but still want to benefit from the blast. So this is a nerf to Meepo and to Morphling, who would just go Ethereal Blade and then nuke people because of their high agility. Now he's still going to nuke them, but it's going to be less severe for sure. Okay, Kaya's have been changed, the Kaya upgrades. Mana loss reduction increased on both, and the spell amplification increased. So people weren't really building, like if you go Kaya, you were usually going Kaya into Bloodstone. You wouldn't see, I can't imagine the last time I saw it in a pro, I can't remember the last time I saw it in a pro game, Kaya Sanj or Yasha Kaya. I think maybe a Leshrac. Yeah, I saw a Leshrac with Yasha Kaya a few months ago. So, take that how you will. Okay, Nullifier complete rework. So it doesn't mute enemies. It continuously dispels a target. Duration reduced, slow reduced, cooldown reduced, cast range increase, armor increase, damage increase. Okay, so this is now a Shadow Demon ult. So kind of a nerf to Shadow Demon. I didn't see Nullify build too much. This is a nerf to the Night Stalker though, who would blink, silence, and Nullifier, so you couldn't. So it was like a mini Doom. Now you can't play around with the mute effect. God, there's not many mute effects in the game anymore, huh? Just Doom ult, I think. God, that sounds weird to say. So now you'll continuously dispel targets. So targets that this last 5 seconds. So I'm trying to think who really doesn't want to be continuously dispelled. Can you? I wonder. Can you? We're just gonna hop in. We're gonna test this out. I want to see if you can use it on allies now. Does it dispel? Okay. We're gonna select Viper. Where's Nullifier? Yeah, okay, can't target allies. So it's now you just dispel buffs on enemies. So non-nerf to Viper. But yeah, it's a nerf to heroes that want to have a bunch of buffs on them. I'm trying to think. Darkseer. That's a weird example, but Darkseer is one of them. For instance, defensive Yules aren't an option anymore as well. So that's pretty big. Force Staff, cast range reduced. 850 for enemies. Okay, so you're still going to be able to Force Staff enemies into a fight, but now you won't be able to save allies as much. So this is kind of a nerf to a bunch of supports just buying Force Staff. Hurricane Pikes, same kind of thing, but you can still use the Force Staff on the enemies, like on an enemy sniper, to push him into your team, which is pretty cool. Observer Ward. The vision reduced. So this is going to affect some ward spots on the map. Cast range reduce on Glimmer Cape, so same kind of thing. They want a certain area that you can use support items on people. Holy Locket buff, that's nice. 300 gold buff. So that's, people might actually build this now. Necronomicon buff, now your units aren't going to be as beneficial for the enemies to kill, so that's pretty sweet. Recipe cost reduced, so there's just 2 big buffs to Necronomicon, maybe a buff to Lycan. Aeon Disc, cooldown reduced from 115 to 105, buff to Aeon Disc. People weren't building that. Silver Edge debuff now reduces regen and heals by 50. So now you really want to get this against your Bristlebacks, but more importantly your Timbersaw. This is a huge nerf Timbersaw, and Husker is also really strong right now, or was really strong in the pubs. So this is going to be just a massive nerf to Husker, even more than before. Although, well, I guess he builds regen items, so yeah, it still matches up. Clarity duration reduced 50 to 30. Mirror generation increased. So now you don't need to, if you use a clarity, then you don't need to be out of the fight as long, which is a very nice quality of life improvement. It's a buff to clarities, it's a buff to mana hungry heroes, but it's nice. I think you're still going to want to buy mangoes in the early game, like for the laning stage, but this is nice. Infuse raindrops and mana regen. This is such a long patch. Most of we're halfway through, it's just items, so that's pretty sweet. Okay, mana regeneration increase, so now people might actually buy infused raindrops more than they were before. I saw it in some places like against Void Spirit buying raindrops, but now it's going to benefit you more. This is a better source of mana. I might actually pick this up more often. Bottle cost reduced from 650 to 625, so that's a benefit. Bottle buff to Storm Spirit, buff to Ember Spirit, buff to Void Spirit, not buff to Earth Spirit, but buff to a lot of spirits, everyone who builds Bottle. That's going to be nice. Rune control is more important now, and while it's not going to offset the nerf as much, that at the 40-minute mark there aren't going to be 2 runes. Medallion Courage mana regeneration increase. I love building Medallion and Solar Crest, so this is really nice to see. Both of them have their mana regens buffed, which is very nice. Ring of Health, regen increased, cost reduced on these. Okay, so Battle Fury was buffed by having these be cheaper. The health regen increased on Perseverance. Yule's is buffed on Void Stone now. Ether Lens also. So that's just nice. Hooded Defiance, health regeneration increase because of the change to Ring of Health. Pipe of Insight, same thing, and because the change to Headdress doesn't provide 3 to all stats. Lotus Orb mana cost increased. Okay, so Lotus Orb, slight nerf to Lotus Orb. You'd use this in order to dispel your allies usually. It does reflect, but that wasn't the main purpose of it, at least in the higher MMRs and Pro scene. Helm of the Iron Will. The health regen increased by 0.25. So that's it's another buff to Crimson Guard, which is very nice. Oh, Armlet also buff, Nullifier buff. Ring of Tarrasque cost reduce. I love building Ring of Tarrasque. Oh, does this mean Heart of Tarrasque buff? I think so. So I love building Ring of Tarrasque. It just feels good to build. And health regen reduced on the Tranquil Boots. So this is because they did buff Ring of Health, the cost. So now, even though it's just 2 health a second, which is actually kind of a lot, but it's still good. So Tranquil Boot nerf, but that's fine. Okay, now for the talents. Again, let's just go look at the heroes we're looking at. So Rubik, Timbersaw, Void Spirit, Batrider. If you see any of these, and we're getting to changes because it's hard for me to remember, just post in chat that these heroes got changed. We'll review them after also. A star. Abaddon. So the AoE Mist Coil, people usually didn't pick it up, if I remember correctly. You usually get the Aphotic Shield health. So that's a buff to his other talent, just a bit more diversity in there. Alchemist agility gain increased by 0.3, so he's going to have more armor in the late game. He's not going to be as reliant on just the raw health regen. Arc Warden movement speed buff increased by 5. We're probably going to see more Arc Wardens. He was played a lot. He was played to counter the Medusa. And okay, key player number 1, Batrider. Batrider had a combined pick ban rate of 35, so, and well, that's pretty big. He was the 4th most pick banned hero. He had a pretty low win rate, but let's see how they change him. Yeah, it's usually the pick and the ban rates that affect the whether or not they buff or nerf heroes. So Firefly, movement speed reduced. That's a big one. By 1 in the early game, 4% in the late game. Damn. Big nerf to Batrider's movement speed, and the damage, impact damage reduced. So this is the initial damage by 20 in the early game. So Flame Breaks, again, people weren't really maxing out Flame Break. They weren't really upgrading either, but now instead of going up by 25 each level, it's going up by 30. Now people might actually want to max that out. Beastmaster, again, he was, I believe, one of them? No, he was not. Okay, well, Beastmaster, he was buffed. Attack speed increased. Damage changed to magical on Wild Axes. And they don't pierce spell immunity. So, I didn't even know they did physical. Now that kind of makes a bit more sense. It's going to be slightly harder to itemize against him, because you wanted the bunch of armor for his summons and for his axes, I guess, and now you're going to want... It's just a bit of magical. It's not going to be a huge change. Usually you do want magical as opposed to physical. So this is a buff to Beastmaster, and also the spell duration increased. The no long piercing spell immunity is kind of big, because he was picked for his ult, which pierced spell immunity. So that's rough, but yeah, it should be fine for Beastmaster. This is a net buff in terms of the attack speed and everything else. Blood Rage heal. Okay, so now Bloodseeker isn't going to have as good of a time regenning in the early game, like level 1. People weren't... You don't usually upgrade your Blood Rage, usually upgrade W and E. So now people might go back to maxing out Blood Rage, possibly, or getting like a 2-1-2 build as opposed to a 1-2-2 build. Maybe a 2-2-1? Who knows? Bounty Hunter, reworked Scepter. Okay, so now it applies Janata to Shuriken Toss. Increases cast range to 650 and lowers cooldown to 6. So you're going to be mana hungry. Okay, so this doesn't do the bouncing Janata, which was kind of funny to watch. The bouncing Shuriken Toss, which is fun to watch. But, okay, where was it? Shuriken mana cost changed. So now Shuriken's going to be less mana hungry in the early game, which is nice. Level 15 talent changed. Okay, so they swapped the attack speed with the Shuriken damage. I like to play a lot of Bounty Hunter. Okay, 125 Shuriken toss damage was a lot. Plus 75 is still a lot, and so I don't know what you kind of want to go now. I almost always took the Shuriken toss damage, and I almost always took the health. So now both talent tiers are a bit more competitive. Brewmaster, again, just checking. Primal Split, Fire Bruling damage increased. So buff to Brewmaster in terms of the Fire Bruling, and the permanent immolation damage interval change from 1 to 0.5. So it's like a double in damage for the permanent immolation damage. And so talents changed 20 from 100, so 1500 health to 1750. I guess people were taking the attack speed a lot more often. And talent increased 65 to 75 second cooldown on level 25. I guess people were they were going for the right click Brewmaster. So this is more of a buff to a more specialized position 3, position 4, maybe even position 5 Brewmaster. That being said, Brewmaster wasn't really played position 5, and you don't want to play a hero in a role just because of their 25 talents. That's very unreliable. Broodmother level 10 talent. The Spiderling's damage was always picked, so now that talent tier is a bit more competitive. Chaos Knight, he hasn't been picked in a while. Phantasm cooldown reduced, so now he's better in the late game. Reality Rift cast range increased at all points in the game, so now, again, just better in the late game, but now he has a better time initiating. Klink's Death Pack no longer has a neutral level requirement. Thank God, this was annoying to play with. You would just go be in the jungle, and then if you needed to do a clutch Death Pact, and you selected the wrong creep, it just wouldn't work out. Burning Army damage increased by 2%. It was increased to 28 and 7.24 from 24, 26, 28. So now it's just 30. So now his ult does more damage. I doubt he's going to get played more in the pro scene, but in the pub scene he's going to be even more of a monster. If he was even a monster to begin with. Let's see. Clinks. Trends. How was he doing? He was doing alright. I mean, not really. He was doing terribly. He was doing absolutely dreadfully at every tier of play. So. Crystal Maiden. Freezing Field. Scepter duration. Reduced from 2.5 to 2.0. For those who don't know, you ult, and if the people are trapped in your ult for a while, then they are rooted. So now the root isn't as strong, so that's fine. Darkseer. Surge movement speed changed from 70 to 250. Surge cooldown increased. So Darkseer is okay. So 70% to 250. Okay, so now it's not movement speed. It's just a general 250 buff plus 250 movement speed buff. So now it's not going to benefit fast heroes as much as before. The cooldown increased. If at the early game is going to make his life a bit harder. He was played a lot. Level 10 challenge change from 90 damage to 125 Ion Shell radius. I genuinely don't know what people took for his talents, but that seems about on par with 12% evasion. Dazzle, I did see this on Twitter, reworked Scepter. Yeah, Klink's was like your Bob Bobson, really glad they finally fixed Klink's. He was good. Well, he wasn't really that good. He was trashed, but he's fun to play with. Play as. Not fun to play against. Now he's going to be more or less fun to play against. People should be focusing down the skeleton army more often now. Death Prophet. She was played a lot. Yeah, so she was down around underneath Clockwork in this chart. 55% win rate when played, 61% total pick ban. Exorcism now provides 20, so they buffed her. In the later stages of the tournament, she was played most times. Okay, but now she just has a 20% movement speed increase. So she's more survivable. If anything, this is like going to be like the Medusa change, where they just changed her, because they gave her ult more movement speed, then she's going to become really strong. So now, and the weird part is the Exorcism grants haste to Zor. So now the strength of the Exorcism grants haste isn't as strong because she already gets a movement speed increase. So you could say, well, that's just too redundant, and you get the +8 Exorcism spirits. So that kind of makes her 25 more of a competitive tier. And she also builds Yule Scepter. So this is bigger than a 20% movement and speed increase because of the 20 movement speed. It's 20% plus an additional 4 movement speed increase, which is nice. Dragon Knight, he's a fast boy now, isn't he? 310 mobility on this guy. Okay, that feels good. Excited to play more Dragon Knight. Attack animation improved for Drow Ranger. She wasn't played that much. Was she played at all? I'm not even sure. So this is going to be nice to play with Drow Ranger now. Earth Spirit, agility gain increase by 0.9. So he hasn't been played in a while, in a hot minute. So now he's going to be a bit tankier till right clicks, which feels good. Additional damage at level 10. So both level 10 talents buffed. So that's just a total buff for Earth Spirit. And 20 talent changed to plus 20% spell amplification. 7.24, they added plus 3.5 geomagnetic grip silence. I guess that was really broken. So now they're adding plus 5% spell amp to Earth Spirit, which is, damn, that's good. Elder Titan, level 20 talent change. Why is that not in the talent section? Level 20 talent. Okay. So I guess people were taking the attack speed most often. Plus 25 Echo Stomp damage is pretty good. I genuinely don't know what Earth Spirits or Elder Titans are going to take. Level 15 talent change to plus 20% magic resistance. So now he's a bit. So the talents that were more for a support Elder Titan or position 3 Elder Titan, that's been buffed, which is nice. I like that playstyle of Elder Titan. And Ember Spirit, if we look here at the very bottom, you can see Ember Spirit had an exactly 50% win rate when picked, banned, or combined. So let's see how they change him. Steering chains cooldown reduced from 14 to 11. Okay, so now steering chains is going to be better in the early game. Usually the people just took, well, the mana cost rescaled, so again, better in the early game, which is cool because people usually just took value point in steering chains. They would go max W, max E, and get a point in your queue. So like a 1-2-2 build or 1-3-2 build. No, 1-2-2-1, something like that. And so that's nice that they didn't like change kind of the play style. They're just going with what people tend to build. Level 10 talent change from 275 to 350 Flame Guard absorption. A lot of people, I guess, would take the 25 damage, but the Flame Guard absorption is really good for when you're facing a lot of magic damage, and you can just keep up your Flame Guard, dealing that constant radiance damage. Sprank distance increased, thank God. So Enchantress Aghanim's buffed. When Enchantress was played, she wasn't really played with the Ags, so that's nice. Enigma base intelligence increased by 3. Enigma hasn't been seen in a while, so that's good. Black hole damage increased by 50. Is this constant? What is this? This isn't a constant, surely. Damage, this is a constant. This is a damage per second, so that's a plus 50 increase. Bob Austin maining Ember Spirit. Yeah, they're nice buffs. They're really nice buffs for sure. So duration of force, that's a total of 200, additional 200 damage on his ult, which is going to feel real good for Enigmas, because that was just your job in general. Plus 40 Malefice instance. Okay, so there is a Malefice instance damage at 15 and Malefice instances at 25. They really want people to take that, because that's going to be plus 100. Okay, so now it deals 105. It'll be 205, a total of 8 times. That's 1600 damage. Nuclear Enigmas are a real possibility now. Just throw your Malefice on someone, blink in, ult. You don't even need your E at that point. You just need to ult. Okay, Grimstroke. Phantom's Embrace Ren damage increase, so now you're going to be more benefited if people keep the Phantom's Embrace on them. It's just in the early game, but I think people were usually skipping this ability to go for their Q and their E, which was just really good. Level 15 talent increased by 5% spell amp, and level 20 talent increased by cast range. So you have cast range at 15 and then an additional cast range at 20. So now I'm wondering what people pick up. I guess if you go the cast range of 15, you don't need the cast range of 20 unless you're just doing a meme build. So you could go spell amp plus the cast range, which is nice. Gyro, attack backswing reduced. I don't even know what that means. I believe that's when you attack, the little time that it takes to stop the attack. So that should be a buff to Gyro. Strength gain increased by 0.2, so that's nice. That'll just make some tankier in the late game. Flat cannon attack count reduced. Yeah, reduced at all levels. So, bit of a nerf to him, his farming capabilities. Flat cannon cooldown reduced from 40 to 20. Okay, that's actually a buff. Flat cannon duration reduced from 15 to 20, 10. The duration isn't that big of a deal, but this is a buff, I think, because he's going to be able to use it twice as often, but it's not a halving of the attack count. It's better for farming, it's worse for team fighting, I guess, if that makes sense. Call down missile 2 damage increased by 100 and at level 6 and 150 at level 18. So now he's going to feel better to actually hit your ult. Level 20 talent increased from minus 25 second cooldown to minus 50 second. Okay. So just buffs to his cooldown, which is nice. Usually when he's being played, I don't notice the cooldown as much. So that's nice. Husker Berserker's Blood max attack speed reduced. Husker has been a monster in pubs lately. There's a good Dota buff article about it if anyone's interested. So this is a nice nerf to him at all stages in terms of like how fast he's going to be attacking. Juggernaut, reworked Scepter. I believe that was just an increase in his ult duration. Grants Swift Slash, performs a mini Omni Slash, lasts 0.8 seconds, cast range 650, cooldown 15, mana cost 100. Okay, so he can do a little mini Omni Slash, and then he can do his ult. So Juggernaut, I don't think Juggernaut's going to be building Aghanims, but, well, for when you do get Aghanims, like from a Roche, it'll feel better. I also think that kind of helps the Juggernaut meme build of the Aghanims, so without changing how the Aghanims, like why people build the Aghanims. Okay, Keep of the Light. Spell Amp change to minus 3 second Blinding Light cooldown. 1 Will-O-Wisp health count to 2 Will-O-Wisp health count. Is this just... Okay, so all of his talent tiers are more competitive. 40% magic resistance, 250 Will-O-Wisp AoE, 3 Will-O-Wisp flicker to 3 Will-O-Wisp health count. Okay, so they changed the flicker and the health count. They swapped it from 15 to 25. Kunkka, talent increased on the armor for level 10. I think people are still going to take the plus 40 damage. It's just too good on Kunkka. Talent increased 60%, Tiebreaker Cleave to plus 80. Okay, I think that's going to be a buff to him, his competitive talents in the pro scene. I think in pubs, people are still just going to take the Cleave, now, especially now that it's buffed. I don't see too many of the Ghost Ship fleets, but I guess it's possible that people might take the Ghost Ship fleet now, but in pubs, they're definitely going to take the Cleaves, I think. Okay, level talent challenge. Level 15 talent increased, 65 overwhelming odds to 80. So the other option was 30 attack speed. I would normally see that. I would normally take that. But the additional damage is going to be nice. I think that's 80 per hero it hits. No, that's just base damage, I believe. So, okay. So that's just a buff to her Q. So you don't need to have as many people clumping up to deal a lot of damage. Agility gain increase, so Leshrac going to move a bit faster and have more armor. Attack backswing, same thing as gyro. I believe that when you attack and there's a little delay in when you can stop your attack. Pulse Nova, or recover from your attack, I should say. Pulse Nova activation cost reduced. Oh, okay. So what people were doing with Pulse Nova is they wouldn't level it up. They would just keep it at 100, max out your other skills before you max out Pulse Nova, which made it kind of a weird ult because you wanted to use it to farm. So like at level 12, people would take a different ability instead of upgrading the ult, and because then you wouldn't be able to use it for farm if it was reducing your mana by 90 each second. Now that's only 70. People are still going to take it. They're definitely going to take it now at 12 and 18 because then you get the extra damage. Lina, attack point reduced from 0.75 to 0.65. I believe that's the start of the attack. Correct me if I'm wrong. Attack backscrewing reduced by 0.78 to 0.6. Again, not entirely sure. Lone Druid, level 10 talent changed from 125 attack range to 30 spear bearer movement speed. So now he doesn't have bonus attack range built into him, so he's not survivable, but that was also kind of weird because you want the bear around you as much as possible. So now the spear bear is going to move faster, which is going to be nice. You can chase people down, get the entangle procs off. Okay, Luna. Base strength increased by 3. Base intelligence increased by 5, but agility again reduced by 0.2. So she's going to be stronger in the early game, but in the late game, which is when she shines, she's going to be a little worse. But you're not really picking her for the early game, you're picking her for the late game, and so I think Luna's going to be picked less. And so yeah, I think that's what's going to happen there. Lycan. Feral Impulse health regen increased, which is nice. I love Feral Impulse. Just getting that bonus HP regen like a mini flesh heap on Pudge is really nice. Shapeshift duration increased from 18 to 22, so now Lycan is going to be ulted for longer. He's going to have more effect in the team fights. He's just going to deal more damage. These are big buffs to Lycan. 4 seconds is a lot in a team fight. Magnus Shockwave slow duration increased, so now Magnus is going to have a bitter slow. He was really strong a few months ago, then he got nerfed and he became weaker, but now this is a buff to his more position 3 playstyle, and also a buff to his, obviously, his position 1 and 2s. I mean, that's just a buff for sure. Level 10, level 15 talent changes. These are to make them more competitive, I'm sure. I guess people were taking the strength and the attack speed too often. They were, definitely. I remember people talking about that. Because you're building him to do a bunch of right-click damage. Mars! Going back to our little data list. Mars is right underneath Oracle. He was played a lot. He was banned a lot because he was played a lot. And so, yeah, he's just a really good position 3. So how has he changed? God's Rebuke Scepter now always lowers the cooldown rather than just during Arena Blood. God's Rebuke Scepter cool. Okay, so this is just a change to his Scepter. So they didn't really change any other part of him. Now his Scepter is better. There's going to be a buff to position 1 and 2 Mars if you want to be dealing a bunch of damage. And, okay. So that's a nice change to Mars. Medusa is also... Is she not up here? Dang. It must have been the tournament previous to this one. Well, Medusa was really strong, and what people would be doing is they just build, I believe, Scotty, Manta, and then go straight for Divine Rapier. So I'm kind of surprised that the only change is just a plus 15% gain to this Mana Snake. People were taking the attack speed. Obviously, if you're building Divine Rapier with the immense damage, you want the attack speed. Give me a second. So yeah, the Mana Snake, this is a buff to a more traditional, just kinda take your mana playstyle, but she doesn't really take mana anymore. I believe this was nerfed a while ago when she did take mana to the 20%, 25%, but now that it just helps her gain mana, then she's gonna take this. It's also more of a tanky kind of talent because obviously Medusa wants her mana, and so the more mana she gets, then the tankier she is. Mirana, base damage increased by 2. I forgot Mirana was even a hero. I haven't seen her in a long time. She buffs her own attack speed, so 2 damage increase is really good. It's going to help her last hit, obviously, in lane as well. The Sacred Arrow damage increase, so this is just the base damage, if I remember correctly. Maximum bonus damage and the damage. So... bonus damage added up to 180. So yeah, this is just the base damage. So now, if you do get that short range arrow, if it's maxed out, it's going to just deal a whole bunch of damage. It's an extra 50 damage. So it's better it's better to just hit. You don't need to rely on the long range sacred arrows to deal a bunch of damage. You still obviously need it to hit long range if you're going for the stun, but if you're just going for the damage, it's good. As soon as I am done, I am looking up what backswing means. Again, pretty sure it's how fast they recover from attacking. Wrath of Nature cooldown increased from 60 to 85. So that's nice. Well, that's nice. It's a nerf to Nature's Prophet. So what's going to happen there is he's not going to be able to ult as often. Now provides you with +4, +6, 5, +6 damage per unit killed for 50 seconds. Okay, so this is a buff to Nature's Prophet. This is a slight nerf to Nature's Prophet Aghanim Scepter, but no one built Nature's Prophet Aghanim Scepter anyways, so that's fine. Nature's Prophet is going to be more prevalent. He'll show up in pubs more often. He'll show up in pro scene more often. I mean, he already was kind of annoying in terms of teleporting behind your towers, killing your couriers, so expect that to happen more often. Okay, base health regen increased by 0.5 for Night Stalker, base intelligence increased by 2, and movement speed increased by 5. So Night Stalker is just better early game, so when you're surviving that first day, it'll feel better as Night Stalker. He hasn't been played in the pro scene in a while. I love playing him. I'm very excited to see all this. 15, so plus 15% lifesteal, plus 25%. Usually people pick the strength. It's generally recommended you pick the strength, but the lifesteal is, maybe people are going to pick the lifesteal now in some games when you need that sustained damage. And the minus 40 second Dark Ascension cooldown, minus 60 second. People usually took the Hunter and the Night attack speed. Now, so the choice has always been, do you want to fight more often or do you want to be stronger when you fight? And now this is going to tip it a bit more in the fight more often argument. But usually I think people are still going to take the Hunter and the Night attack speed. These are big buffs to Night Stalker though. I'm expecting Night Stalker to be played a lot more, especially because of the buffs to Solar Crest and Medallion of Courage that we saw earlier with the mana regen increase. The base armor reduced by 1 on Ogre Magi. He is still a tanky. He had 8 armor? Why did he have 8 armor? He doesn't have any armor. Why did he? Okay. Well, he's still going to be annoying as all heck. I'll tell you that, but he's going to be a little less annoying. You might be able to hurt him now. Phoenix, base health regen increased. Phoenix needs health in order to use her ability, so that's nice. Base damage increased by 2. I think you're still going to see, if you see a Phoenix, it'll probably still be a support Phoenix. If it is a core Phoenix, she'll be able to last hit more. I guess it'll be able to last hit more. And so, plus 3.3 health a second. That's nice. So Phoenix is just going to be better better all around. Puck, base damage reduced by 2. So Puck's going to have a little nerf hit to him. I don't remember what Puck is. Pudge, base health regen increased from 0 to 1. Flesh Cube now provides magic resistance instead of health regen. Okay. So Pudge, I don't know. He wasn't being played at all in the pro scene. So this might be, if anything, this is a benefit to position 3 Pudge, I imagine. So he gets that 1 health regen that you got from 1 point in Flesh Heap. But now he also gets magic resistance, which, because he's such a tanky boy, because of the Flesh Heap stacks giving him strength, he's going to be even tankier to magic resistance. He's going to be really good versus, like, spell casting heroes like Pugna, for instance, who the mana drain is rescaled to be better in the early game. Life drain damage is reduced. Life drain cooldown reduced by a bunch. Life drain scepter also increases damage, and life drain break distance reduced. So Pugna is going to ult more often. He's not going to ult for as much health unless he gets a scepter, which he usually did. So this is just a big buff to Pugna. This isn't a nerf to a scepter even, because it'll increase his damage. Queen of Pain, Shadow Strike slow increased by 15% in the late game. Didn't see a lot of people. I didn't see a lot of people max this out. So now if you max it out, then it'll benefit you more. It's just better late game damage. That was kind of her problem. Sonic Wave cooldown reduced by 10 seconds. That's good. You haven't seen Queen of Pain in a long time. Part of that is just she kind of relies on her big ult to perform in fights. But yeah. Ricky, level 15 talent reduced from 35 damage to 30. Some people swear by Ricky. Some people say Ricky's just trash still. I don't know where I am, but this is going to make sure people aren't as much proponents of Ricky. Fade Bolt mana cost increased. So Rubik was already a mana hungry guy. And he would always go tangos into the headdress. Now that was kind of nerfed. Well, so now that you have to pay more mana for Fade Bolt, you're probably going to want to go for a Ring of Vasi, I imagine, although Headdress is still really good. Also want to point out, Rubik was the most combined picked / banned hero. His win rate was 64%, almost 65, and so yeah, Rubik needed a nerf. I'm not sure if there's going to be enough of a nerf, but it's good that they nerfed him. We scrolled a bit too far down. Ooh, Techie's got changed. Okay, Sand King. Caustic Finale slow duration increased. Haven't seen Sand King in a while. Caustic Finale now reduces attack speed. Okay, maybe you want to pick this up in the laning stage now. Damaging slowing nearby enemies. Okay, so maybe if you... Because people were saying you pick it up in the early game versus a melee core, and then when they're around their own units, when they die, then they take a bunch of damage. Now they're also going to have their attack speed lower, so they're going to last hit a little worse. Epicenter damage per pulse increased, so his ult's going to do more damage in the late game. Maybe Sand King is going to get played now. No idea. Shadow Demon. Demonic Purge damage increased by 50 at all levels. Was this a... Yeah, this wasn't continuous. This is just a single bunch of damage that happened after that 7-second delay. Alright, Intelligence Seal is now part of Glaives of Wisdom instead of being innate. Into damage. Does he still benefit from... does he still benefit from just getting kills?
There is purity in silence.
Alright, let's test this out. Let's test this out.
It's not time yet.
It looks like no. Okay, so you need to have a point in your Glaives of Wisdom. I think people are... So that doesn't really change much. Because you're still stealing 2 per stack. So you're still just going to want a point in your Glaives of Wisdom, but that's what people wanted anyways. I don't really understand this change, but I guess it makes more sense when you're just picking up the game and you're like, well, what does he do? He steals intelligence. How does he steal intelligence? He needs that one skill upgrade. Level 15 talent change. So they did just add the Arcane Curse slow in the last update. People were still just taking the permanent int steal. So now it's a bit different. Now maybe people are going to take the Arcane Curse slow. I do think it's better, but it's hard to pass up the +2 permanent int steal. Okay, Slark, we're almost done. Pound Scepter distance reduced by 1200 to 1100. So Slark was pretty bonkers with the Aghanims because of how far he could jump and how fast he could jump, how often he could jump. So now that's a bit nerfed. Snapfire. Let me turn down that music. Okay. Snapfire, added Scepter ability. Gobble Up allows you to swallow an allied creeper hero and spit it toward enemies, stunning them in the area for 1.5 seconds, leaving a glob on the floor. Users can stay in his belly up to 3 seconds. Okay, I need to test that out.
His old bones can tell when a fight's coming. Aghanim's scepter.
That's a cute little
You
icon.
ought not to have done that.
Okay, and now he can spit them out.
Sometimes he goes where he wanna.
That's
Oh, nice.
cute.
On the prod.
Okay. Can't Dota HUD error, can't enemy hero. Okay, that's fair.
Wait along. Sorry.
That's never not gonna be funny. Okay. That's beautiful. Alright, Sky Blast cooldown increased. Thank God. This ability just did too much damage and it did it too often. I still think it just does too much damage for how much mana it does, but I mean, hey, that's fine. Sniper. Base damage increased by 4. Haven't seen Sniper in a long time. Headshot damage reduced. Okay, so now he's not going to be as annoying with his crits. And Assassinate Scepter cast time reduced from 1 to 0.5 seconds. So Sniper is going to be better in terms of laning, and his Aghanims is buffed. He's not going to be as annoying in the late game when he's getting off a bunch of crits on you, but his Aghanims is buffed, which is nice. I still don't know if you pick up his Aghanims, but speaking of Aghanims that you probably don't want, Spectre, Shadow Stepped, Scepter ability cooldown reduced. So you're going to be able to Shadow Step more often. On the games I did manage to build a Shadow Step, the Scepter on the Spectre. Try saying that 10 times fast. Then it was kind of lackluster. I would use it once and in a game, and that would be it. And the base health regen increased is nice because it's just an additional health a second. Spectre is going to feel not as bad in the early game. You're going to have that additional health. Reworked Scepter on Spirit Breaker. Increase the Charge of Darkness movement speed by 100 and reduces cooldown by 5. So that's a 6-second cooldown, and you get 475 movement speed. I'm gonna have fun playing with that later. Storm Spirit base attack speed increased from 100 to 110. Storm Spirit really loves attack speed, so that's really nice for him. Just buff to Storm Spirit. Sven base movement speed increased by 5. Again, very fast guy now. His main problem is being kited, so that helps a lot. And Techies, mine movement speed increased. You almost always took the 251 damage, so the fact that you can now stack mines more feels better for you and way worse for everyone else in the entire team. Well, entire team, entire game, your team, enemy team, just everyone should not like this. Except Techies players, they should love this. And Templar Assassin, another scepter that people don't usually take. Sonic Projection cast time reduced from 2 to 1. This is you could teleport to any traps, so maybe Templar Assassins will pick this up in the later stages of the game for kind of like a mini blink or just a flanking from the back of the enemy team if they have a squishy backline. Alright, Metamorphosis Scepter is now standalone ability you gain while in Metamorphosis. Grants you Terror Wave, causes a wave to travel. Okay. So this was considered a very terrible Aghanims because you want to use your ult when you're in the back of the fight, and this Aghanims upgrade only benefited you if you're in the front of the fight. So now you can be in the back of the fight, use your use your ultimate, and then if they jump onto you, you can use your Terror Wave and send them back. So that's going to be nice for a Terrorblade. Level 10 talent increased. Level 10 talent increased. Okay, so just talents are being increased. Except for 20, which is now more competitive to the plus 10 all stats. So, yeah. So Terrorblade is just net buffs. Very minor ways. I mean, these talents are pretty broken though. I mean, the 15% evasion is kind of weird because as Terrorblade, you're not really that afraid of being attacked since you have such high armor, but I think this is all good buffs. Terrorblade will probably show up sometime. He's better in the late game for sure. And better in the ultra late game. Tidehunter, base strength increased by 3. Again, haven't seen Tidehunter in a while. He's going to be a bit tankier. Tinker, level 10 talent change from 125 cast range to 150. What are people taking? The 10% spell amp. Maybe people take the cast range now. You can blink farther, you can use Might of the Machines from a longer range. You don't need to get an Aether Lens. That's pretty good. Level 15 talent change from 2-second March of the Machine duration to 3-second. Again, people are taking mana cost, mana loss reduction. I still don't think you want the March of the Machines duration, but I don't play a lot of Tinker, and I don't see a lot of Tinker being played. But these are buffs. These are net buffs to Tinker by making his talents more competitive. Attack backswing reduced from 1 to 0.7. Again, just how fast they recover from an attack, I'm fairly certain. Nature's Guy's regen amplification increased from 25% to 40%. I forgot that was even part of the ability and the hero. So that's pretty sweet for a Treant Protector, that he can now self-heal and regen amp. So he'll just be able to heal himself faster. Tranquil Boots, he wasn't hit as hard by the Tranquil Boots nerf as anyone else was, but that's pretty good for a Treant Protector. Tusk, base movement speed increased by 5, 315 movement speed, haven't seen Tusk in a while. Ice Shards damage increased by 10 and then 40 in the late game. Okay, so that's nice. Undying, Tombstone Zombies damage increased from 36 to 46. Combine this with the change that is in 7.24 where now they could benefit from Helm of the Dominator, and that's a really big damage increase to Undying. Maybe you'll see an Undying position 3 build Helm of the Dominator. I remember Purge was talking about that, and he tried that out. I don't think it ended well, but maybe this is just going to be better now. We haven't seen Undying in position 5 or 3 at all. Ursa, Fury Swipe's damage increased, so Ursa is going to deal more damage. He's going to take Roshan better. Overpower, attack count reduced. Cooldown reduced by 3 in the late game. Mana cost reduced, so he's going to be a little less mana hungry, but he's going to... God, I don't know if this is a nerf or... These are nerfs or buffs. Enrage no longer has a Fury Swipe multiplier. Okay, so I'm pretty sure nerf. Enrage duration increased. Enrage cooldown reduced by 20 in the early game. And now grants the stats resistance as default, plus 50% stats resistance. And now he gets plus 3 overpower attacks on Ursa. So this is buffs. These are net buffs to Ursa. I think Ursa's going to be much stronger now. And you're going to see Ursa more often. Again, early game menace. And now he benefits more in the... Well, again, he has that early game power spike. Okay, Vengeful Spirit. Magic Missile. Cast range increased. So, maybe people have been playing a lot of D&D lately. Get that Magic Missiles going. So, cast range is going to be nice. I'm wondering, how does that... Okay, so... The Q cast range of the Magic Missile is still less than the ult cast range, so it's not like a perfect Q ult combo still, but it's just a nice buff. And damage rescaled, which is worse than the level 1, but better at all other levels. And at level 4, it's an additional 35 extra damage. So these are buffs to Vengeful Spirit. You're going to want to put more points in your queue if you weren't doing that. I saw some Vengeful Spirits being played that were not doing that. They'd go for a Wave of Terror, so this will incentivize more 4 points in your queue, but it is only 10 damage, so might not be that much. Viper Strike damage increased from 60 to 80 and 145 to 160. So Viper is just better. Level 10 talent increase from 8% spell life steal to 10%. You usually want to be taking the attack speed, especially because of the changes to his Q, where you want to stack your attacks as much as possible. So maybe this will be a benefit to position 3 Viper. Position 2 Viper, you still want to go for the attack damage build. But even the position 3 Viper, I saw OG play, or OG Seed play the position 3 Viper, and he still went for an attack damage build, so I guess maybe just support Viper will benefit from this, but I'm not sure. I think the attack speed is just way too good since you attack so slowly by default. Visage, base attack speed increased from 100 to 110. Visage is going to be dealing more damage. He's going to be able to deny better, and his soul assumption is going to get more damage stack. So now collection rate is increased. That's a lot. And the cast range increased. So now Visage is just going to be able to deal more damage, and he'll be able to deal it more often and from farther away. Level 25 talent change to -2 Gravekeeper's Cloak, which is kind of gross, to +6 Gravekeeper's Cloak stacks. So now he won't benefit as much from long drawn out fights, but he will benefit from just have a big fight, stop, have a big fight, stop, have a big fight. Void Spirit, add Deceptor. Okay, Resonant Pulse is now charge base ability with 2 charges, and it now silences enemies for 2 seconds. I think you'll want to pick this up maybe for Void Spirit. It's for 2 second silence with your Q. Like you Yules, you Q, they're taunted, you then use your E. Then use your E again, and what does the cooldown on your Q? Okay, so you won't be able to like permanently silence them, but that's really nice for Void Spirit. Warlock, Shadow Word cast point improved from 0.5 to 0.4, so he's going to be able to get his heal off faster, more reliably. Level 10 talent increased, so this could just more competitive. I think people were taking 175 cast range though, so that's kind of weird that they buffed that, but I guess I could be wrong. Level 20 talent increased from 300 Shadow Word AoE to 375. People always took the summons a Golem on death. Maybe people will actually take the Shadow Word AoE now, because that is a very large AoE. Okay, Weaver, base intelligence increased by 3, intelligence gain increased by 0.2, and base management increased by... Okay, so Weaver's not going to be as mana hungry. She's pretty mana hungry if you're spamming out the Shikuchi, which now also got a big buff, 280 at level 4. That's pretty good. Wind Ranger, intelligence gain increased by 0.6. She's going to be dealing more damage. She's going to have better mana. And it's going to be just a good old time for Wind Ranger. Oh my god, we scrolled to the end. Winter Wyvern, Cold Embrace, now considered heal instead of regen. That makes sense. So now Winter Wyvern may be buff on the Holy Locket. We'll see what happens with that. Witch Doctor, paralyzing casks, mana cost reduced. So Witch Doctor is going to be less mana hungry at level 1. Or, yeah, you usually want to upgrade the paralyzing casks. So level 1, less mana hungry. Death Ward's Scepter no longer has a bounce limit. Holy crap, wait, so you can just keep bouncing it? Oh my god.
I abhor the blindness of the mortal plane.
Let's test this out. Let's test this out.
With bones and spells I come.
Okay, and now, oh, the little dummy targets. Okay, so it won't bounce between the same targets, which makes a lot of sense. If it did, that'd be pretty busted.
The glaives will silence you.
Okay, so now it's just better in team fights. If you want to hit everyone with your ult, you can. Better against Meepo. Wraith King Vampiric Aura Lifesteal reduced by 4% in late game, 1% at level 1. Vampiric Aura Lifesteal and damage on your hero is now 1.5% more. So that's actually a net buff to his own lifesteal without buffing the lifesteal to everyone else. And finally, Zeus. Base movement speed increased by 5, so 295 to 300. Attack point improved from 0.45 to 0.35. He's going to feel better last hitting a Zeus. And that is the update. Overall, I like it. The item change is going to be hard getting used to. I'm excited to see how the goal changes happen. And I think the hero changes were all very good, very well deserved. In terms of who was changed a lot, Rubik wasn't changed, wasn't nerfed. New Rubik was nerfed. Timbersaw wasn't changed. Void Spirit was slight buffed, but that's fine because he had such poor performance. Batrider was nerfed. even though he had kind of poor performance, but he was really strong when he was played. And Snapfire was given a slight nerf, although also kind of a slight buff. So let's see what happens with Snapfire. And that is it. Thank you all for coming, and I look forward to doing this again some other time. Maybe though I will just do a highlight video.